Hello and welcome to this final first look exploring session looking at Sir Thomas More by Anthony Munday and friends. This is the last session. We're looking at the last third of the play. This is a confusing and interesting text, of more of which may be discussed at the end of the session. But at the moment we're just going to assess the text that has been presented to the room to explore and find out what we think of Sir Thomas More, the character, the play, and things. We are going from, as we've got it here, the way the scenes and acts are distributed do differ according to different editions, but we're going from what we're calling Act 4, Scene 2. And we're going to be diving into the play in just a moment. So, who have we got reading with us today? Well, reading Sir Thomas More himself today is...
Hello, my name's Elizabeth Amisu and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading Lady More and Butler today is...
Muted.
Ooh, we've lost your sound, Sarah. You're not muted, but we can't hear you. We'll come back to you, Sarah. I'll come back to you at the end and see if we can hear you. Reading Servant, Second Warder and Brewer today is...
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
Reading Roper and Lieutenant is...
Hello, Dan, actor based in Montpellier, France.
Reading Palmer, Third Warder today is...
Hello, I'm Lynn. I'm a college composition teacher by day, and I live in the northwestern United States.
Reading Surrey today is...
Rachael Nicole, actor, New Jersey.
Reading Rochester and Gough today is...
Aliki, Chapple, actor, translator, theatre maker, Northwest England.
Reading Clerk, Downs and Officer today is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian in Hull.
Reading Shrewsbury today is...
Hello, I'm Valentina. I'm an Italian actor and voiceover artist in London.
Reading Catesby and First Warder today is...
Hello, my name's Francis Cox, a newly vaccinated actor living in Amsterdam.
Reading Daughter, Horsekeeper, Second Sheriff today is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I shall try not to get those confused.
Yes, we have some people who have quite a few quite small parts that amount up to confusion in their brains, which hopefully will all be fine. On a similar axis, reading Roper's Wife, Gentleman Porter, and First Sheriff is...
Hi, I'm Tamara Ritthaler. I'm an actor currently based in Germany, and I will try not to miss any cues.
And reading Woman and Hangman today is...
Lois in London.
And I'll just go and see. Can we hear the voice of Lady More and Butler?
Hopefully you can hear me.
Yay!
Oh!
Tell us about yourself, Lady More.
I'm Lady More. I'm married to Sir Thomas More. I'm guessing I'm going to be fairly upset by the end of the play, but who knows?
Otherwise known as Sarah Blake.
Did I not say my name?
No.
Oh. Okay, it's one of those days.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions and generally keeping, hopefully, all the wheels turning as we go. For more. How do you like it? How do you like it? Act 4, Scene 2. Enter the Earls of Shrewsbury, Surrey, Bishop of Rochester, and other lords severally, doing curtsy to each other. Clerk of the Council, waiting bareheaded.
Good morrow to my lord of Shrewsbury.
Like unto the honoured Earl of Surrey. Yon comes my lord of Rochester.
Good morrow, my good lords.
Clerk of the council, what time is today?
Past 8 of the clock, my lord.
I wonder that my good Lord Chancellor doth stay so long, considering there's matters of high importance to be scanned upon.
Clerk of the council, certify his lordship. The lords expect him here.
It shall not need. Yon comes his lordship.
Enter Sir Thomas More with purse and mace borne before him.
Good morrow to this fair assembly. Come, my good lords, let's sit. Oh, serious square.
And they sit.
Upon this little board is daily scanned the health and preservation of the land. We the physicians that affect this good, now by choice diet, anon by letting blood. Our toil and careful watching brings the king in league with slumbers, to which peace doth sing. Avoid the room there. What business, lords, today?
This, my good lord, about the entertainment of the emperor against the perfidious French into our pay.
My lords, as 'tis the custom in this place, the youngest should speak first, so, if I chance, in this case to speak youngly, pardon me. I will agree France now hath her full strength, as having new recovered the pale blood which war sluiced forth, and I consent to this, that the conjunction of our English forces with arms of Germany may soon bring this prize of conquest in. But then, my lords, as in the moral hunting twixt the lion and other beasts, force joined with greed, frighted the weaker sharers from their parts, so if the empire's sovereign chanced to put his plea of partnership into war's court, swords should decide the difference, and our blood in private tears lament his entertainment.
To doubt the worse is still the wise man's shield that arms him safely. But the world knows this. The emperor is a man of royal faith. His love unto our sovereign brings him down from his imperial seat to march in pay under our English flag, and wear the cross, like some high order, on his manly breast. Thus serving, he is not master of himself, but like a colonel commanding others, is by the general overawed himself.
Yet, my good lord,
let me conclude my speech, as subjects share no portion in this conquest of their true sovereign, other than that the merit that from the sovereign guardians to the true subject. So the good emperor, in a friendly league of amity with England, will not soil his honour with the theft of English spoil.
There is no question but this entertainment will be most honourable, most commodious. I have oft heard good captains wish to have rich soldiers to attend them, such as would fight both for their lives and living. Such a one is the good emperor. I would to God we had 10,000 of such able men. Then there would appear no court, no city. But where the wars were, they would pay themselves. Then, to prevent in French wars England's loss, let German flags wave with our English cross.
And so enter Sir Thomas Palmer.
My lords, his majesty hath sent by me these articles enclosed, first to be viewed, then to be subscribed to. I tender them in that due reverence which benefits this place.
With great reverence.
Subscribe these articles. Stay, let us pause. Our conscience first shall parley with our lord. My lord of Rochester, view you the paper.
Subscribe to these. Now, good Sir Thomas Palmer, beseech the king that he will pardon me. My heart will check my hand whilst I do write subscribing so. I were an hypocrite.
Do you refuse it then, my lord?
I do, Sir Thomas.
Then here I summon you forthwith to appear before his majesty to answer there this capital contempt.
I rise and part in lieu of this to tender him my heart.
He riseth.
Will it please your honour to subscribe, my lord?
Sir, tell his highness I entreat some time for to bethink me of this task. In the meanwhile I do resign mine office into my sovereign's hands.
Then, my lord, hear the prepared order from the king. On your refusal, you shall straight depart unto your house at Chelsea, till you know our sovereign's further pleasure.
Most willingly I go. My lord, if you will visit me at Chelsea, we'll go a-fishing, and with a cunning net, not like weak film, we'll catch none but the great. Farewell, my noble lord. Why, this is right. Good morrow to the sun, to the state, good night.
And exit Sir Thomas.
Will you subscribe, my lords?
Instantly, good Sir Thomas. We'll bring the writing unto our sovereign.
My lord of Rochester, you must with me to answer this contempt.
This is the worst. Who's freed from life is from all care exempt.
And exit Rochester and Palmer.
Now let us hasten to our sovereign. 'Tis strange that my Lord Chancellor should refuse the duty that the law of God bequeaths unto the king.
Come, let us in. No doubt his mind will alter, and the bishop's too. Error in learned heads hath much to do.
And they exit. I can feel, I get the impression that Helen might have something to say here. I don't know. There's been some hints. We've had, I have to say, a lot of fun in the chat over the line "Oh Serious Square," which I think we've had too much fun on its behalf. I think it's actually quite a nice line in the context of they're sitting around a table, what this table represents. That said, we have had an awful lot of fun with options of. I particularly liked Deadly Diamond and a Royal Rhombus. Actually, that was rather enjoyable. Helen, however, I've held you back too long. What would you like to say about this scene?
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Reformation.
Yep, the king didn't come on. The Reformation is literally a piece of paper.
It took about 5 years, that scene.
Mm.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Pretty good.
Mm.
Slightly condensed.
Yeah.
Also, you will notice they never actually said what the piece of writing was.
No.
which was either the oath of supremacy or the oath of succession. It should be the oath of succession, but anyway, it was one of the two.
For play purposes, it's probably all of the things.
Yeah.
Lynn.
Yes. So, one remarkable thing about it is that it's so condensed that Henry's efforts to get everyone on board with the royal supremacy and with the Act of Succession didn't happen at one council meeting. And the fact that they're so cagey about what's in this document. First read it and then sign it. But everyone in the audience must have known the overall nature, but the play seems so careful not to mention it, which is interesting. Now, what I remember learning is that Moore was willing to agree to the Act of Succession that was a temporal political matter, but he would not sign the oath of the oath of supremacy. He would not recognize Henry as the head of the English Church. He didn't care who was going to be king or queen next. But he wouldn't let the sovereign displace the Pope as the head of the Universal Church. So it wasn't totally dug in. But I don't know if this play's audience would have known that detail.
Rachael, or for that matter, how much detail? I mean, it's interesting, and people are quite clued into a lot of Tudor backgrounds. So, a reasonable percentage would be, doing what Helen just did. But also a reasonable number would possibly not know that level of detail as to what's going on there. So it's an interesting question what an audience today would make of that. Rachael?
This scene, I wonder if this is, showing that, I feel like this is showing the turning point for him, because he seems popular with your average person, but we've seen him playing pranks on people who are of high station in public and exposing not just them, but their position to ridicule. And I wonder if there's some exercising of their grudges about to come out from this now that they can fault him, perhaps formally on this matter for not signing it right away like the rest of them and bringing some of his loyalty into question.
Helen, I think I saw you waving again earlier.
Yes, may not be immediately aware that Rochester is in fact a bishop. He's not Lord Rochester, he's the Bishop of Rochester. His name is John Fisher, and he is in fact a Yorkshireman, born in Beverley.
Excellent. Useful data for an actor to know, both in costuming terms and also accent terms there.
Yeah, my RP is dodgy at the best of times. I can't do Yorkshire, I'm sorry.
No, it's more, Yorkshire is more an attitude of mind.
I like your RP, Aliki. I thought it was fantastic.
Anyway, we've had the Reformation, so let's rattle on. I'm sure we've got the spark for the action that follows, I think is the best way of putting it. So, Act 4, Scene 3, enter the Lady Moore, her 2 daughters, who will be personified, I think, as one person here, and Master Roper as Walking.
Madam, what ails ye for to look so sad? Madam?
Oh, we've lost your sound again. Let's see if we can. Let's see if that comes back. Try again, Sarah. No, you are silent.
She's choked up, I think.
Try muting and unmuting yourself. See if that does it. No.
Right vid only. Killing vid rather.
Can you hear me?
Oh, you are back, yes.
I can re-cue you if you'd like.
Yes, go from the top of the scene. That'd be lovely.
Madam, what ails ye for to look so sad?
Not what? I am not sick, and yet I am not well. I would be merry, but somewhat lies so heavy on heart, I cannot choose but sigh. You are a scholar. I pray ye, tell me, may one credit dreams?
Why ask you that, dear madam?
Because tonight I had the strangest dream that e'er my sleep was troubled with. Methought 'twas night, and that the king and queen went on the Thames in barges to hear music. My lord and I were in a little boat, methought. Lord, what strange things live in slumbers. And being near, we grappled to the barge that bare the king. But after many pleasing voices spent in that still-moving music house, methought the violence of the stream did sever us quite from the golden fleet, and hurried us unto the bridge, which, with unused horror, we entered at full tide. Thence, some slight shoot being carried by the waves, our boat stood still, just opposite the tower, and there it turned and turned about, as when a whirlpool sucks the circled waters. Methought that we both cried till that we sunk, where arm in arm we died.
Give no respect, dear madam, to fond dreams. They are but slight illusions of the blood.
Tell me not all are so, for often dreams are true diviners, either of good or ill. I cannot be in quiet till I hear how my lord fares.
Nor I. Come, hither, wife. I will not fright thy mother to interpret the nature of a dream. For trust me, sweet, this night I have been troubled with thy father beyond all thought.
Truly, and so have I. Methought I saw him here in Chelsea Church, standing upon the rood loft now defaced, and whilst he kneeled and prayed before the image, it fell with him into the upper choir, where my poor father lay all stained in blood.
Our dreams all meet in one conclusion fatal, I fear.
What's that you talk? I pray ye, let me know it.
Nothing, good mother.
This is your fashion still. I must know nothing. Call Master Catesby. We shall straight to court and see how my lord does. I shall not rest until my heart leave panting on his breast.
Enter Sir Thomas More merrily, servants attending.
See where my father comes, joyful and merry.
As seamen having passed a troubled storm, dance on the pleasant shore. So I could speak now like a poet. Now afore God I am passing light. Wife, give me kind welcome. Thou wast wont to blame my kissing when my beard was in the stubble. But I have been trimmed of late. I have had a smooth court shaving in good faith. I have.
And the daughters kneel.
God bless ye. Son Roper, give me your hand.
Your honours, welcome home.
Honour! Ha! Ha! And how dost, wife?
He bears himself most strangely.
Lordship? No, wife. That's gone. The ground was slight that we did lean upon.
Lord, that your honour ne'er will leave these jests. In faith, it ill becomes you.
Oh, good wife, honour and jests are both together fled. The merriest counsellor of England's dead.
Was that my lord?
Still lord. The Lord Chancellor, wife.
That's you.
Certain, but I have changed my life. Am I not leaner than I was before? The fat is gone, my titles only more. Contented with one style, I'll live at rest. They that have many names are not still best. I have resigned mine office. Countest me not wise?
I don't think we heard Lady Moore's reaction there.
Yeah.
Sound dropped out again.
Okay.
Yeah, you're back in.
Okay, sorry, I'll give you that again. Oh, God.
Come, breed not female children in your eyes. The king will have it so.
What's the offence?
Tush, let that pass. We'll talk of that anon. The king sings a physician to my fate. His princely mind would train me back to state.
Then be his patient, my most honoured father.
O son Roper, ubi turpis est medicin sanari piget. No, wife, be merry, and be merry all. You smiled at rising, weep not at my fall. Let's in, and hear joy like to private friends, since days of pleasure have repentant ends. The light of greatness is with triumph born. It sets at midday, oft with public scorn.
And they exit. There's really interesting questions about what Moore is doing here. Is Moore putting on a brave face for his family, or is he just massively deluding himself? Is there a weird excessive compensation of going, everything's fine. I'm not crying inside. It's really interesting little scene there, actually. Plus, obviously, Lady Moore's really interesting sort of premonitions there of bad things happening. Thoughts in the room? Aliki.
Doesn't seem to me to be saying that nothing bad is happening. He seems to me to be sort of hysterical with relief almost, kind of like, well, the axe fell, it's over now, I don't have to worry about it anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah, like that. Francis.
Yeah, I really liked that speech by Lady Moore about her dream. I thought it was lovely, and the imagery, the music on the water. Yeah, I really liked that.
There's some really nice touches here, and
Yeah.
this third of the play is generally delivering some really interesting moments so far. I'm liking this. Lynn, then Rachael.
I'm just kind of glad that somebody, Moore's wife, finally said, "It ill becomes you." Sort of gratified that somebody finally said that.
Yeah, I get the impression during the earlier scene she was definitely doing an awful lot of eye rolling, if not actually saying anything. Rachael?
No, yeah, it kind of a repeat of what Francis and Lynn said, that the Lady Moore's speech really gives the actor playing Lady Moore a moment, just to have fun with the audience and have fun with that fourth wall imagery. And then the "in faith it ill becomes thee," and then he says honor and jests are both together fled. I think the honor and jests part says a lot about the scenes and the shape that we've been getting in this play so far. That we have scenes of his heroics, and then we have scenes of his pranks. And the very first scene that we had seemed to be both in one. And I think she gives, Lady Moore is giving him the reaction that, maybe other people haven't told him, and that he has pushed people too far, and now they have something to use against him because they have gotten sick of him in their personal life. And maybe, yeah.
Other thoughts? Sarah, then Francis.
She's also Lady Moore. She's the first character that we've had from the, I suppose it's the A plot, but it's kind of weird because the B plot came first. She's the first character from the Moore circle who we've had any internal insight into, other than Moore himself in that one great speech he had yesterday, but then his whole behaviour just kind of contradicted it, which was interesting, and kind of he became really quite engaging in that speech, and then he just kind of flipped, which we talked about yesterday as an interesting character development. But here we're not only getting her internal thoughts, they're also quite sympathetic, and like Francis said, beautiful language. So I don't know. I finally feel there's a character in this play, like one of the major players, as opposed to one of the kind of B plot players who I'm interested in seeing what happens to her, and how she reacts to what's going to happen.
Okay, Francis.
Yeah, I really liked this line of Moore's, but I have been trimmed of late. I have had a smooth court shaving in good faith. There's some nice dramatic irony there.
Yes. Yes, that's a very good pickup, yes. From people being shaved in the previous session, so for those who weren't here. Elizabeth.
Yeah, Rob, I found that the humour that Moore comes out with, which is really unbecoming to him, serves to build tension towards his demise, because I agree with Aliki that there's a sense that he's becoming a bit unhinged and that he's losing himself. And I also think that the shaving of the beard was quite symbolic as well, because I think wasn't the beard really symbolic of his status?
Dan?
We'll see with the rest of the play, but I think it's possibly a pretty wise choice to wait to introduce us really to Moore's personal life until late in the game here, because it lets us get on with the other business that's probably, I guess, more pressing at the time, I guess, the larger issues at hand. So we don't look at Moore as just I guess, a personal figure with something at stake. That's maybe, it might have been a bit too early and maybe gotten jumbled up, or I guess influenced the way that we thought of him. It's nice to have this change of perception of him at this juncture of the play, at least in my opinion. At least that's the way it seems to be going.
Eric?
I was going to say that it's interesting how we've had two scenes back to back that are very, very quick about very important events. Like the previous scene, as Helen said, was the Reformation, and then this one is actually also sort of the beginning of the fall. I don't know, part of the fall anyway. He at least sort of more starts to discuss the fall of his star in the court, but it's very, very sort of quick. There's been no scene in between to explain what has happened, or sort of, it's basically he comes back home.
Rachael, and then we're going to move on.
No, he's kind of seems more unhinged in this scene. I wonder if because he was so popular with people and he's always trying to make jokes like a class clown sort of person. If he's this people pleaser type of thing, and he wants to keep people laughing, and so that he seems not to be as well liked anymore. I want, like how other people pursue power, they pursue the crown, and other plays like some of the Edward plays that we've gone over. I wonder if, as opposed to power or the crown or something like that, that he's always been aiming to be a very popular person and be surrounded by people. And that seems to be coming undone, is very crushing to him.
Okay, let's move on. I'll run the next two scenes into each other. The first one's quite short, the next one's reasonably long. I may pause in the middle of the one following. Act 4, Scene 4. Enter the Bishop of Rochester, Surrey, Shrewsbury, Lieutenant of the Tower, and warders with weapons.
Your kind persuasions, honourable lords, I can but thank you for. But in this breast there lives a soul that aims at higher things than temporary pleasing earthly kings. God bless his highness, even with all my heart. We shall meet one day, though that now we part.
We not misdoubt your wisdom can discern what best befits it, yet in love and zeal we could entreat it might be otherwise.
No doubt your fatherhood will by yourself consider better of the present case, and grow as great in favour as before.
For that, as pleaseth God, in my restraint from worldly causes, I shall better see into myself than at proud liberty. The Tower and I will privately confer of things wherein at freedom I may err, but I am troublesome unto your honours, and hold ye longer than becomes my duty. Master Lieutenant, I am now your charge, and though you keep my body, yet my love waits on my king, and you, while Fisher lives.
Farewell, my lord of Rochester, will pray for your release, and labour as we may.
Thereof assure yourself, so do we leave ye, and to your happy private thoughts bequeath ye.
And exeunt the lords.
Now, Master Lieutenant, on, a God's name, go, and with as glad a mind go I with you as ever truant bade the school adieu.
And everyone else exits. Act 4, Scene 5. Enter Sir Thomas More, his lady, daughters, Master Roper, gentlemen and servants, as in his house at Chelsea. Low stools appear.
Good morrow, good son Roper. Sit, good madam, upon an humble seat, the time so praised. Rest your good heart on earth, the roof of graves. You see the floor of greatness is uneven, the cricket and high throne alike near heaven. Now, daughters, you that like to branches spread, and give best shadow to a private house, be comforted, my girl. Your hopes stand fair. Virtue breeds gentry, she makes the best heir.
Good morrow to your honour.
Nay, good night rather. Your honour's crest fain with your happy father.
Oh, what formality, what square observance lives in a little room. Here, public care gags not the eyes of slumber. Here, fierce right ruffles not proudly in a coat of trust, whilst like a pawn at chest he keeps in rank with kings and mighty fellows. Yet indeed, those men that stand up on tiptoe smile to see him pawn his fortunes.
True, son here. Nor does the wanton tongue here screw itself into the air, that like a vice drinks up the iron instrument.
we're not hearing from Lady Moore again. No. Oh, I think you might be back.
Am I back?
You're back. Go
It's
for it,
so
Lady
random.
Moore.
I'm not doing anything. It's just coming and going. I think perhaps my laptop is dying. Anyway, never mind. Right. We are here at peace.
Then peace, good wife.
Well, keeping still in compass, a strange point. In time's new navigation we have sailed beyond our course.
Have done.
We are exiled the court.
Still, thou harpest on that. 'Tis sin for to deserve that banishment, but he that ne'er knew court sweet content.
Oh, but dear husband.
I will not hear thee, wife. The winding labyrinth of thy strange discourse will ne'er have end. Sit still, and, my good wife, entreat thy tongue be still, or credit me. Thou shalt not understand a word we speak. We'll talk in Latin. Humida valis reros patitur fulminis ictus. More rest enjoys the subject meanly bred than he that bears the kingdom in his head. Great men are still musicians, else the world lies. They learn low strains after the notes that rise.
Good sir, be still yourself, but remember how in this general court of short-lived pleasure, the world, creation, is the apple food that is digested in the maw of time. If man himself be subject to such ruin, how shall his garment then, or the loose points that tie respect unto his awful place, avoid destruction? Most honored father-in-law, the blood you have bequeathed these several hearts, as with joy you led us first to rise, so with like hearts we'll lock preferment's eyes to nourish your posterity. Stands firm.
Close them not then. With tears for that assent, give the wet signal of your discontent. If you will share my fortune, comfort then, and 100 smiles for one sigh. What? We are men. Resign wet passion to these weaker eyes, which proves their sex, but grants it ne'er more wise. Let's now survey our state. Here sits my wife, and dear esteemed issue. Yonder stand my loving servants. Now the difference twixt those and these. Now you shall hear my speech like more in melancholy. I conceive that nature hath sundry metals, out of which she frames us mortals, each in valuation, outprizing other, of the finest stuff. The finest features come, the rest of earth. Receive base fortune even before their birth. Hence slaves have their creation. And I think nature provides content for the base mind. Under the whip, the burden and the toil, their low-wrought bodies drudge in patience. As for the prince in all his sweet gorged maw, and his rank flesh that sinfully renews the noon's excess in the night's dangerous surface. What means or misery from our birth doth flow? Nature entitled to us, that we owe. But we, being subject to the rack of hate, falling from happy life to bondage state, having seen better days, now know the lack of glory that once reared each high-fed back. But you, that in your age did ne'er view better, challenge not fortune for your thriftless debtor.
Sir, we have seen far better days than these.
I was the patron of those days, and know those were but painted days, only for show. Then grieve not you to fall with him that gave them. Generosis servis gloriosum mori. Dear Gough, thou art my learned secretary, you, Master Catesby, steward of my house. The rest, like you, have had fair time to grow in sunshines of my fortune. But I must tell you, corruption is fled hence with each man's office, bribes that make open traffic twixt the souls, and Netherland of hell deliver up their guilty homage to the second lord. Then, living thus untainted, you are well. Truth is no pilot for the land of hell.
And enter a servant.
My lord, there are newly lighted at the gate the Earls of Surrey and of Shrewsbury, and they expect you in the inner court.
Entreat their lordships come into the hall.
And exit the servant, and we're just going to pass Lady Moore over. Lois, could you read in Lady Moore for us for the duration? There's only a few lines in this scene, I think.
Okay. Oh God, what news with them?
Why? How now, wife? They are but come to visit their old friend.
Oh God, I fear.
What shouldst thou fear, fond woman? Justum si fractus illabitur orbis, in pavidum ferient ruinae. Here, let me live estranged from great men's looks. They are like golden flies on leaden hooks.
And enter the Earl's Downs with his mace and attendants.
Good morrow, good Sir Thomas.
There are kind salutations.
Good day, good madame.
Welcome, my good lord. What ails your lordship look so melancholy? Oh, I know. You live in court, and the court diet is only friend to visit.
Oh, Sir Thomas, our words are now the king's, and our sad looks the interest of your love. We are sent to you from our mild sovereign, once more to demand if you'll subscribe unto those articles he sent ye the other day. Be well advised. For, on mine honour, lord, grave Dr. Fisher, Bishop of Rochester, at the self-same instant attached with you, is sent unto the Tower. For the like obstinacy, his majesty hath only sent you prisoner to your house. But if you now refuse for to subscribe, a stricter course will follow.
Oh, dear husband!
And kneeling and weeping.
Dear father!
See, my lords, this partner and these subjects to my flesh prove rebels to my conscience. But, my good lord, if I refuse, must I unto the Tower?
You must, my lord. Here is an officer ready for to arrest you of high treason.
Oh God, oh God!
Patient, good madam.
Aye, Downs, if thou, I once did save thy life, when else by cruel riotous assault thou hadst been torn in pieces. Thou art reserved to be my summoner to yon spiritual court. Give me thy hand. Good fellow, smooth thy face. The diet that thou drinkest is spiced with mace, and I could ne'er abide it. 'Twill not digest. 'Twill lie too heavily, man, on my weak breast.
Be brief, my lord. We are limited unto an hour.
Unto an hour? 'Tis well. The bell soon shall toll my knell.
Dear loving husband, if you respect not me, yet think upon your daughters.
And more kneeling.
Wife, stand up. I have bethought me, and I'll now satisfy the king's good pleasure.
Pointing to himself.
Oh, happy alteration.
Come then, subscribe, my lord.
I am right glad of this your fair conversion.
Oh, pardon me. I will subscribe to go unto the Tower with all submissive willingness, and thereto add my bones to strengthen the foundation of Julius Caesar's palace. Now, my lord, I'll satisfy the king, even with my blood. Now will I wrong your patience. Friend, do thine office.
Thomas More, Lord Chancellor of England, I arrest you in the King's name of high treason.
Gramercy's friend, to a great prison to discharge the strife commenced twixt conscience and my frailer life. More now must march. Chelsea, adieu, adieu. Strange farewell. Thou shalt ne'er more see more true, for I shall ne'er see thee more. Servant, farewell. Wife, mar not thine indifferent face. Be wise. More's widow husband, he must make thee rise. Daughters, what's here, what's here? Mine eye had almost parted with a tear. Dear son, possess my virtue that I ne'er gave. Grave more thus lightly walks to a quick grave.
Curae levis decuntur, gentis stupent.
You that way in, mind you my course in prayer. By water I to prison, to heaven through air.
And yes, we close the two scenes that we ran back to back, where we feature two people seeing the bad end of this whole signing a bit of paper business. So scene with Rochester not doing so well, and then Moore not doing so well. A sense of anticipation before the knock on the door. Thoughts on the room? Tell me more, Aliki.
Well, I mean, it justifies the dramatic decision to get the Reformation over with really quickly and not really tell us what's going on, because then we can dwell on this juicy, emotion-rich, incident-rich scene, right? And wow, wonderful speeches, really lovely. And just kind of, I don't want to talk too much, but there's something really realistic about, kind of grimly realistic about political violence there that I really like.
Helen.
Yeah, I mean, suddenly we've actually got a real character, and we've got a real situation, and we've got a real agon. I mean, we're there. This is a play, whereas, and I think it's very, very different from the first 2/3, where it was just occasional tricks and a little bit of something I forget what.
Other thoughts? Who's waving? Elizabeth and Rachael.
Yeah, I love Moore. I can see why Dan loves this play so much. He's like, when he is doing his jesting and his gambit playfulness, I think he kind of jars a little bit. But when he talks about his upcoming death and he talks about his mortality, we really see a very powerful, visceral side to him. I love the way he doesn't want his daughters and his wife to mourn him. He wants them to kind of be strong. I think that's really indicative of his character. And that's what we kind of start to see. I'm so sorry I missed yesterday. I'm going to have to watch it back, because we start to see Moore's character really build towards the end.
Rachael.
I think it's in one of the lines that Dan read, but that somebody calls him a pawn in these political schemes, and I wonder if this is just from in Salem, Massachusetts, how they had the witch trials. If somebody was a witch, they would take all your property and all your money if you said you were. So is Moore being sent to the Tower and being accused of treason? Do these make his lands forfeit, not just his title that he's gotten, but his lands? And is that part of the motivation to bring him down to collect some of his properties for the other lords?
Helen, I think you're placed to answer that.
In most cases, one would definitely answer yes. It was always a motivation. Here, I don't actually think it was. The problem with Moore is that he had an enormous international reputation as a philosopher, theologian. People listened when he spoke and they read what he wrote. And consequently, the king was outraged that he was on the wrong side. And that was More's problem, that just by staying silent, he was undermining the king too much. I don't think he had a great deal of personal property.
And it's and we've got he's still being quite playful, even and in a that someone I think said in the chat they like the subscribe line. I'll subscribe to the writing. No, I'll subscribe to go with you to the tower. As sort of. Which, in a sense, it's interesting to sort of mess with the lives of Shrewsbury and Surrey. Possibly not for the emotional impact on his family who was still in the room at the time. Any other thoughts? Eric?
I was going to say that the Lady Moore and the daughters seem to be like the sort of chorus. If this was like a Greek tragedy, that's how it would be set up, I think.
They're doing a lot of kneeling and they're doing a lot of weeping and a lot of exclamations of "Oh God, oh God." Lois.
Yeah, and he does say a couple of rather misogynistic things about them too. I mean, that this is what women do; they cry. Yeah, I think Shrewsbury and Surrey also are a sort of chorus, or they're kind of in the position of the authors of this play, really. They can't ever really come out and say what they think. They say at one point, we're speaking for the king, but you can see from our looks how we feel about you, but we've got to put the official line, and we've also got to agree with it, because otherwise we'd be in the tower with you.
Okay, we're going to move on. We'll read the next two scenes back to back, because I quite like doing that. Act 5, Scene 1, enter the warders of the tower. So pay attention, all you different warders, with halberds.
Oh, make a guard there.
Master Lieutenant gives a straight command. The people be avoided from the bridge.
From whence is he committed? Can you tell? Who can tell?
From Durham House, I hear.
God, we're waiting there an hour ago.
If he stay long, he'll get near the wharf. There's such a crowd of boats upon the Thames.
Well, be it spoken without offence to any, a wiser or more virtuous gentleman was never bred in England.
I think the poor will bury him in tears. I never heard a man since I was born so generally bewailed of everyone.
Enter a poor woman.
What means this woman? What dost thou press? Whither dost thou press?
This woman will be trod to death anon.
What makest thou here?
Speak with that good man, Sir Thomas More.
To speak with him? He's not Lord Chancellor.
More's the pity, sir, if it pleased God.
Therefore, if thou hast a petition to deliver, thou must keep it now, for anything I know.
I'm a poor woman, and have had, God knows, a suit this 2 year in the Chancery, and he hath all the evidence I have, which should I lose, I am utterly undone.
Faith, and I fear thou hardly come by now. I'm sorry for thee, even with all my heart.
Enter the lords with Thomas More and attendants, and enter Lieutenant and Gentleman Porter.
Woman, stand back. You must avoid this place. The lords must pass this way into the tower.
I thank your lordships for your pains thus far to my strong house.
Now, good Sir Thomas More, for Christ's dear sake, deliver me my writings back again that do concern my title.
What, my old client, hast thou got hitherto? Poor silly wretch, I must confess indeed, I had such writings as concerned thee near, but the king has ta'en the matter into his own hand. He has all I had. Then, woman, sue to him. I cannot help thee. Thou must bear with me.
Gentle heart, my soul for thee is sad. Farewell, the best friend that the poor heir had.
And exit the woman. And Gentleman Porter speaks up.
Before you enter through the tower gate, your upper garment, sir, belongs to me.
Sir, you shall have it. There it is.
The utmost on your back, sir, you mistake me.
Sir, now I understand ye very well, but that you name my back, sure else my cap had been the uppermost.
Farewell, kind lord. God send us merry meeting.
Amen, my lord.
Farewell, dear friend. I hope your safe return.
My lord and my dear fellow in the muses, farewell. Farewell, most noble poet.
Adieu, most honoured lords.
And exit the lords.
Fair prison, welcome. Yet methinks, for thy fair building, 'tis too foul a name. Many a guilty soul, and many an innocent, have breathed their farewell to thy hollow room. I oft have entered into thee this way, yet I thank God, ne'er with a clear conscience than at this hour. This is my comfort yet. How hard sore my lodging prove, the cry of the poor suitor, fatherless orphan, or distressed widow, shall not disturb me in my quiet sleep. On then, a God's name, to our close abode. God is as strong here as he is abroad.
And exit more. We go into the Act 5, Scene 2. Enter a butler, porter, and horsekeeper several ways. And a brewer as well, actually. Several ways.
We're short of a butler.
We are short of a butler. Who fancies Valentina be a butler for us?
Robin Brewer, how now, men? What cheer? What cheer?
Faith, Ned Butler, sick of thy disease, and these are other fellas here, Rafe Horsekeeper and Giles Porter. Sad, sad. They say my lord goes to his trial today.
Do it, man. Why, he's now at it. God send him well to speed.
Amen. Even as I wish to mine own soul, so speed it with my honourable lord and master, Sir Thomas More.
I cannot tell. I have nothing to do with matters above my capacity. But as God judge me, if I might speak my mind, I think there lives not a more harmless gentleman in the universal world.
Wiser, nor a merrier, nor an honester. Go to. I'll put that in upon mine own knowledge.
Nay, and ye bate him his due of his housekeeping, hang ye all. Ye have many Lord Chancellors comes in debt at the year's end, and for very housekeeping.
Well, he was too good a lord for us, and therefore I fear God himself will take him. But I'll be hanged if ever I have such another service.
Soft man, we're not discharged yet. Yet my lord may come home again, and all will be well.
I much mistrust it. When they go to raining once, there's ever foul weather for a great while after. But soft, here comes Master Gough and Master Catesby. Now we shall hear more.
Enter Gough and Catesby with a paper.
Before God, they are very sad. I doubt my lord is condemned.
God bless his soul, and a fig then for all worldly condemnation.
Well said, Giles Porter, I commend thee for it. To spoken like a well-affected servant of him that was a kind lord to us all.
Which now no more he shall be. For, dear fellows, now we are masterless, though he may live so long as please the king. But law hath made him a dead man to the world, given the axe his head, but his sweet soul to live among the saints.
Let us entreat ye to go call together the rest of your sad fellows. By the rule, ye all just 70, and tell them what we hear. Virtuous, honourable lord hath done even for the meanest follower that he had. This writing found my lady in his study this instant morning, wherein is set down each servant's name, according to his place and office in the house. On every man he frankly has bestowed 20 nobles. Best and worst together, all alike, which Master Catesby hereforth will pay ye.
Take it as it is meant, a kind remembrance of a fair, kinder lord, with whose sad fall he gives up house and farewell to us all. Thus the fair spreading oak falls not alone, but all the neighbour plants and under trees are crushed down with his weight. No more of this, come and receive your due, and after go fellow-like hence, co-partners of one woe.
And they exit. So we have a number of characters being thrown in here, doing different things, doing their jobs, waiting for news. Servants in a household, warders doing their job, a woman who wants to know what's happened to her, where's her documents. Quite a broad world being painted in two relatively short scenes. A fig then for all worldly condemnation. Thoughts from the room? Anyone want to leap in on any of those two scenes? Sudden silence. We've been doing well so far today. People have been generally leaping in. Aliki, then Francis.
Francis was first. But so I'm sorry now that I missed. I'm sorry anyway that I missed the first third of the play, because I find it so interesting how all of these non-central characters are there as a chorus, as Eric was saying about the daughters, and just how detailed they are in that.
Francis.
Yeah, I just thought that was a lovely scene with the servants, talking with affection about their master. It's a very human scene.
Yeah, what happens to the household when a great lord is taken down, and who's going to be their master now? Who's going to take them if their reputation might be tainted? They might have to end up working for someone who actively harmed their master. There's all sorts of interesting questions about what's going to happen to all of them. Rachael.
No, some of Moore's character, I feel like that play we read a little bit ago called Cornelia, where she refused to change even as the government itself was changing. I feel that there's some of that in Moore's character, that he just refuses that change, that he's somebody of a real solid character that's showing itself now because of this huge change, where before he seemed like to have more levity and not be such a serious man. It's like this is the proof of his mettle even when he has to pay it.
It's interesting, but they still managed to sneak in a bit of more comedy, which sort of lands because it's during some wordplay in adversity. As they're saying, I've got to your upper garment, sir, belongs to me, says the porter, and he tries to, here, my cap, and no, from me back, and he goes, oh no, sir, you weren't precise enough, you weren't. Is that a good joke? No, not really. Never mind. Tried my best. Tough crowd. Other thoughts? Helen.
Yeah, the woman who's lost her evidences. This is a very common problem. If a person of any status was arrested for treason, their entire archive, every piece of paper people could lay their hands on, would also be taken. And I mean, quite a number of family papers have survived purely because their owner was executed. And so the documents have ended up in the National Collection. This would include everything that they had. And so if your evidences, if documents vital to your case were in amongst them, you could go whistle.
Anyway, we need to move on. We have two scenes. They're reasonably chunky. Possibly get a sense of where this play is going. Act 5, Scene 3. Enter Sir Thomas More, the lieutenant, and a servant attending as in his chamber in the tower.
Master Lieutenant, is the warrant come? If it be so, A god's name. Let us know it.
My lord, it is.
'Tis welcome, sir, to me with all my heart. His blessed will be done.
Your wisdom, sir, hath been so well approved, and your fair patience in imprisonment hath ever shown such constancy of mind and Christian resolution in all troubles, as warrants us you are not unprepared.
No, Master Lieutenant. I thank my God. I have peace of conscience, though the world and I are a little odd, but we'll be even now, I hope, ere long. When is the execution of your warrant?
Tomorrow morning.
So, sir, I thank ye. I have not lived so ill, I fear to die. Master Lieutenant, I have had a sore fit of the stone tonight, but the king hath sent me such a rare receipt. I thank him, as I shall not need to fear it much.
In life and death, still merry, Sir Thomas More.
Sirrah, fellow, reach me the urinal.
And he gives it to him.
Ha, let me see. There's gravel in the water, and yet I see no grave danger in that. The man were likely to live long enough, so please the king. Here, fellow, take it.
Will I go with it to the doctor, sir?
No, save thy labour. We'll cozen him of a fee. Thou shalt see me take a dram tomorrow morning. Shall cure the stone, I warrant. Doubt it not. Master Lieutenant, what news of my Lord of Rochester?
Yesterday morning was he put to death.
The peace of soul sleep with him. He was a learned and reverend prelate, and a rich man, believe me.
If he were rich, what is Sir Thomas More that all this while hath been Lord Chancellor?
Say ye so, Master Lieutenant? What do ye think a man that with my time had held my place might purchase?
Perhaps, my lord, £2,000 a year.
Master Lieutenant, I protest to you, I never had the means in all my life to purchase one poor £100 a year. I think I am the poorest chancellor that ever was in England, though I could wish, for the credit of the place, that my estate were better.
It is very strange.
It will be found as true, I think, sir, that with most part of my coin I have purchased as strange commodities as ever you heard tell of in your life.
Commodities, my lord. Might I without offence inquire of them?
Crouches, Master Lieutenant, and bare cloaks for halting soldiers and poor needy scholars have had my gettings in the chancery. To think but what a cheat the crown shall have by my attainder. I prithee, if thou beest a gentleman, get but a copy of my inventory. That part of a poet that was given me made me a very unthrift. For this is the disease attends us all. Poets were never thrifty, never shall.
Enter Lady More, mourning daughters, Master Roper, who you may seems very similar to the lieutenant.
Noble More, my lord, your wife, your son-in-law and daughters.
Son Roper, welcome, welcome, wife and girl. Why do you weep? Because I live at ease? Did you not see when I was Chancellor, I was so clogged with suitors every hour, I could not sleep, nor dine, nor sup in quiet? Here's none of this. Here I can sit and talk with my honest keeper half a day together. Laugh and be merry. Why then should you weep?
These tears, my lord, for this your long restraint. Hope had dried up, with comfort that we yet, although imprisoned, might have had your life.
To live in prison, what a life were that! The king, I thank him, loves me more than so. Tomorrow I shall be at liberty, to go even whither I can, after I have dispatched my business.
Ah, husband, yet submit yourself. Have care of your poor wife and children.
Wife, so I have, and I do leave you all to his protection, has the power to keep you safer than I can. The father of the widow and the orphan.
The world, my lord, hath ever held you wise, and shall be no distaste unto your wisdom to yield to the opinion of the state.
I have deceived myself, I must acknowledge, and, as you say, son Roper, to confess the same. It will be no disparagement at all.
His Highness shall be certified thereof immediately.
And offering to depart.
Nay, hear me, wife. First let me tell ye how. I thought to have had a barber for my beard. Now I remember that were labour lost. The headsman now shall cut off head and all.
Father, his majesty, upon your meek submission, will yet, they say, receive you to his grace, in as great credit as you were before.
Wench, faith, my lord the king has appointed me to do a little business. If that were past, my girl, thou then shouldst see what I would say to him about that matter. But I shall be so busy until then, I shall not tend it.
Oh, my dear father.
Dear lord and husband.
Be comforted, good wife, to live and love my children, for with thee leave I all my care of them. Son Roper, for my sake that have loved thee well, and for her virtue's sake, cherish my child. Girl, be not proud but of thy husband's love. Ever retain thy virtuous modesty. That modesty is such a comely garment, as it is never out of fashion, sits as fair upon the meaner woman as the empress. No stuff that gold can buy is half so rich, no ornament that so becomes a woman. Live all and love together, and thereby you give your father a rich obsequies.
Your blessing, dear father.
I must be gone. God bless you. To talk with God, who now doth call.
Ay, my dear husband.
Sweet wife, good night, good night. God send us all his everlasting light.
I think, before this hour, more heavy hearts ne'er parted in the tower.
And they exit. So yes, you're in the tower, your loved ones come round, and you make a joke about having a shave, and it being a slightly excessive shave that's going to chop your head off. He just can't stop himself, can he? The most inappropriate joke at that moment. I mean, okay, he's the one who's going to get his head chopped off, but for goodness sake, man. There's a time that,
I think that's the best time, honestly, to bring it. Really. Gallows humor. That's why it's called gallows humor.
Yeah, I'm just choose your audience. Choose your audience for that one. That's one for the lieutenant, surely. That's not for your wife and children.
Yeah. And it's the second time he's done that to his wife and daughters. Oh, guess I'm not going to die after all. Oh, I am.
Yeah.
I like it when he says, I'll submit. Doesn't that mean that he'll recant? And then he says, no, I won't.
It was another of my clever jokes. I will submit to being taken to be executed.
And we get all this business of the urinal and it seems very clear that he's got kidney stones. Is there any gravel in the water? Rattle, rattle, rattle. Which if he has, that's a jolly uncomfortable prelude to death. As if you're passing stones. It's not a pleasant condition to be going through. Lynn.
Yeah, if you've got kidney stones, you might just as well want to. I have an old friend who has had kidney stones and given birth to twins, and she said, "I'd give birth to twins again any day rather than kidney stones." So,
I so far seem to have been very lucky to have had quite mild kidney stones, so I'm really looking forward to when the big ones arrive. Seems to be something in my family. Yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun. Thoughts in the room on other things, Rachael?
No, that joke, I mean, it might not land well with his wife, but I wonder how it would land for an audience. And I feel like perhaps for more, there is some of that, you know, breaking the fourth wall or using the fourth wall in the audience there as you know, the public, you know, the English public at that time, or, you know, perhaps a passerby or something like that. And, you know, him being this jokester character and playing a little bit of a clown, not a clown like that we have here, but like, you know, playing to them a bit, you know, trying to get not their approval, but their laughter.
Oh, and in a sense, I'm not actually against it in the city. You know, it's entirely in character, and I think it works very effectively. I'm just pointing out that, yeah, dial it down, mate, in a more day-to-day way. Dan, then Helen.
This was kind of a point that I feel like I just never really, I guess, underlined that Rachael had just made when we were talking about his humor in the first 2 days of this, is that I really feel that we hadn't really mentioned how the audience is dealing with this and how he might be charming. This might be found charming to the audience, and we were more. I think more of the discussion was focused on, well, it's not really funny, a practical joke, if the other person's not in on it. I was saying, well, the audience was in on it, and it might have seemed a bit, frat boyish or sophomoric humor, but I think that it's kind of his thing, and it's maybe not really nice to the other characters on stage, but hey, if the audience likes it, bring it on.
Helen.
Yeah, I think the thing that I've noticed about this is just how slow the action is. In other parts of the play, 5 years whizzes past. I mean, we move from 1517 to 1529 without actually breaking step at one point. And also the incidents themselves whiz past fairly fast. I mean, there is a slowness over Doll and Williamson and the bringing on of the gallows to Cheapside. But apart from that, things have moved incredibly fast. And here, it's slowed down to a glacial pace, and it works. It really does.
We have one more scene to go. That's almost, in a sense, a spoiler by stating this is the last scene. You know, there's 5 more scenes to go, people. Take your time. No. Act 5, Scene 4. Enter the sheriffs of London and their officers at one door, the warders with their halberds at another.
Officers, what time of day is it?
Sugar, it's my only line and I've lost it. 8 o'clock, anyway.
We must make haste then, lest we stay too long.
Good morrow, Master Shreves of London. Master Lieutenant wills ye to repair to the limits of the tower, there to receive your prisoner.
Sheriff number 1? Do we have one? Have I not given out a sheriff number 1? Maybe I haven't. Oh well, never mind. Go back and tell his worship we are ready.
Go bid the officers make clear the way. There may be passage for the prisoner.
Enter Lieutenant and his guard with more.
Yet, God be thanked, here's a fair day toward, to take our journey in. Master Lieutenant, it were fair walking on the tower leaves.
And so it might have, liked my sovereign lord. I would to God you might have walked there still.
And he weeps.
Sir, we are walking to a better place. Oh, sir, your kind and loving tears are like sweet odours to embalm your friend. Thank your good lady, since I was your guest. She has made me a very wanton, in good sooth.
I had hoped we should not yet have parted.
But I must leave ye for a little while. Within an hour or 2 you may look for me. But there will be so many come to see me that I shall be so proud. I will not speak. And sure, my memory is grown so ill, I fear, I shall forget my head behind me.
God and his blessed angels be about ye. Here, Master Shreves, receive your prisoner.
Good morrow, Master Shreves of London, to ye both. I thank ye that ye will vouchsafe to meet me. I see by this you have not quite forgot that I was in times past, as you are now, a sheriff of London.
Sir, then you know how our duty doth require it.
I know it well, sir, else I would have been glad. You might have saved a labour at this time. Ah, Master Sheriff, you and I have been of old acquaintance. You were a patient auditor of mine when I read the divinity lecture at St. Lawrence's.
Sir Thomas More, I have heard you oft, as many other did to our great comfort.
Pray God, you may so now, with all my heart, and as I call to mind, when I studied the law in Lincoln's Inn, I was of counsel with ye in a cause.
I was about to say so, good Sir Thomas.
Oh, is this the place? I promise ye, it is a goodly scaffold. In sooth, I am come about a headless errand, for I have not much to say now I am here. Well, let's ascend. A God's name, in troth, methinks, your stair is somewhat weak. I prithee, honest friend, lend me thy hand, to help me up, as for my coming down. Let me alone, I'll look to that myself.
As he is going up the stairs, enters the Earls of Surrey and Shrewsbury.
My lords of Surrey and Shrewsbury, give me your hand. Yet before ye see, though it pleaseth the king to raise me thus high, yet I am not proud. For the higher I mount, the better I can see my friends about me. I am now on a far voyage, and this strange wooden horse must bear me thither. Yet I perceive by your looks you like my bargain so ill, that there's not one of ye or dare enter with me. Truly, here's a most sweet gallery.
Walking.
I like the air of it better than my garden at Chelsea. By your patience, good people, that have pressed thus into my bedchamber, if you'll not trouble me, I'll take a sound sleep here.
My lord, 'twere good you'd publish to the world your great offence unto his majesty.
My lord, I'll bequeath this legacy to the hangman.
And gives him his gown.
And do it instantly. I confess, his majesty hath been ever good to me, and my offence to his highness makes me of a state pleader, a stage player, though I am old and have a bad voice. To act this last scene of my tragedy, I'll send him for my trespass a reverend head, somewhat bald, for it is not requisite any head should stand covered to so high majesty. If that content him not, because I think my body will then do me more pleasure, let him but bury it and take it.
My lord, hold conference with your soul. You see, my lord, the time of life is short.
I see it, my good lord. I dispatched that business the last night. I come hither only to be let blood. My doctor here tells me it is good for the headache.
I beseech thee, my lord, forgive me.
Forgive thee, honest fellow. Why?
For your death, my lord.
Oh, my death? I had rather it were in thy power to forgive me, for thou hast the sharpest action against me. The law, my honest friend, lies in thy hands now. Here's thy fee. And my good fellow, let my suit be dispatched presently, for 'tis all one pain, to die a lingering death, and to live in the continual mill of a lawsuit. But I can tell thee, my neck is so short, that if thou shouldst behead 100 noblemen like myself, thou wouldst ne'er get credit by it. Therefore, look ye, sir, do it handsomely, or, of my word, thou shalt never deal with me hereafter.
I'll take an order for that, my lord.
One thing more. Take heed thou cuttest not off my beard. Oh, I forgot. Execution passed upon that last night, and the body of it lies buried in the tower. Stay, it's not possible to make escape from all this strong guard. It is. There is a thing within me that will raise and elevate my better part above the sight of these same weaker eyes. And, Master Shreves, for all this troop of steel that tends my death, I shall break from you and fly up to heaven. Let's seek the means for this.
My lord, I pray ye put off your doublet.
Speak not so coldly to me. I am hoarse already. I would be loath, good fellow, to take more. Point me to the block. I now was here before.
To the east side, my lord.
Then to the east. We go to sigh, that o'er to sleep in rest. Here more forsakes all mirth, good reason why. The fall of flesh must with her frail life die. No I salute my trunk with a sad tear. Our birth to heaven should be thus, void of fear.
And exit with the hangman, etc.
A very learned, worthy gentleman seals errors with his blood. Come, we'll to court. Let's sadly hence to perfect unknown fates, whilst he tends progress to the state of states.
And exit. Yes, it's interesting. Chap's called Hangman, and obviously he's an axeman on some level. But this structure, I'm just wondering if this is a similar gallows structure that we had earlier that they're reusing here as a nice elevated position for. There's a lot of really nice Moor material here of just going, oh, this is quite nice. I could promenade along this gallows for a while. It's quite nice. It's good. Do you think we could escape? But that feels awfully modern. In fact, I'm fairly certain that kind of thing has featured in films and television things. Yeah, it's really interesting. Thoughts from the room about Moore's last moment there. I'm sure in a modern production you'd hear a thunk. Someone would be chopping a cabbage backstage or something. Elizabeth.
I love how close we get to Moore's internal dialogue and his internal sort of struggle with his impending death. And I love how the audience gets so close to his beheading, but not quite there.
Yeah. I mean, we've had beheadings, I'm sure, somewhere else. So it's not technically impossible, but it's probably messy.
Helen and the head in the bag.
Yeah, it's always easier to someone go off and then come back on, head in the bag. It's always easier. Other thoughts? It's quite sad. The humour does really nicely work here. It does puncture it quite nicely. Really nice death scene. Always good to have a good death scene. Aliki.
It's nice the way he subverts it. This whole process is meant to be is meant to be humiliating, I imagine, or to make you see the error of his ways. And he makes it into a stage for himself, and even tells us he will do so in a lovely kind of meta theatrical. This is the last scene of my tragedy.
Other thoughts? I'll go to Lois then. Rachael.
I find Surrey's little summing up at the end really interesting. He seals error. That is his Catholicism, his refusal to make the king head of the church, and so on, with his blood. And I guess Surrey's got about 10 years more to live. I mean, he's going to be executed eventually too.
Rachael, did I see? Did I imagine that?
No, I mean, because this is the last scene. We never see the king in all of this. And we also never see anybody, we see people here at his execution, and before we just saw people in the tower with him, but we never see anybody go to the king himself and plead for him. And I wonder if that says something about the relationships that, Surrey and Moore have and Shrewsbury have, or if it says something about the relationship with the king or how far he's fallen in the king's eyes, that, there's no point, or if, because this is a history and everybody knew how it ended, that there, Munday just didn't see a point in putting that in the play to create, maybe a false tension.
Other thoughts? Lois?
Yeah, I mean, part of the difficulty of writing this play is that they can't depict the king, and they can't really say anything against him. I mean, it seems certain that it was written, it was at least started in the reign of Elizabeth, possibly finished then. I mean, and, they couldn't have done anything about that.
Can't say anything bad about Daddy. Lynn?
I know, obviously they can't say anything negative about the current sovereign's father. And I know there's censorship regulations forbade the portrayal of living aristocracy on the stage. But of course, Henry's no longer alive when this play was being written. And we have seen as recently dead monarchs as Henry VII, although before he was king, when he was just the Earl of, I can't remember, Richmond. Yeah, Richmond. How could I forget that? But yeah, it's probably true that you just didn't dare push that censorship regulation, to portray a recently dead monarch. But it does have a certain effect on the play. Henry's absence is a presence. The fact that there's this absent, very powerful figure. It's a kind of weird. It's a little bit of a creepy vibe.
Lois.
Yeah, that's true. And it's also true that there was also a prohibition against having religious controversy on the stage, discussions of religion, which makes it even more difficult to deal with the subject at all. I mean, that's why it's so mysterious. Well, what on earth happened? Why is Moore in the tower? Why is he being executed?
Yes, don't mention God. Yes. So, we'll be going into, we'll be sort of dancing around with final thoughts, I think, about the play overall. I won't initially go around the room in a specific order and things, but I've been very circumspect in talking about the sort of general shape of the play, because of course it does come to us in an interesting form, and I've been relatively circumspect on that front. But I'll let Dan, if he wants, go into that a bit more, and now, because I think you will have established your own opinions by now, or not, and see whether a little background into this chimes or does not chime with your feelings about the play.
Okay, so if you've lasted this long to get to this final point, most of any, if not all of you, who's watching this probably knows that this is a famous play for many reasons, and primarily for the authorship of it. I won't mention that because it's not confirmed who this is, and there is not enough evidence for it. But who is confirmed is absolutely Anthony Munday, who wrote the primary text. We're always putting it around the date of 1595-ish. At some point, this went to the censor, to Buck, and there are revisions throughout this play, suggestions and handwriting of the censor in there. And then several additions were made. They're from hand A to hand E, plus hand S, who is the original, that would be Munday. Hand A, we definitely know, is Chattle, Henry Chattle, who wrote a section that we did not read today. Hand B sometimes is credited to Haywood, but there's certainly not enough evidence. It's mainly a handwriting thing. I've looked at it myself and I'm not sure of it. Hand C would be a theatrical scribe, a bookkeeping scribe, who did a lot of the scenes that we have done here, who we don't know if he actually wrote it himself or was transcribing it, somebody else's work. But this is an experienced scribe. We've seen his work elsewhere. I believe we've seen it in John of Kent and John of Cumbria as well. Hand D is the who shall not be named, and Hand E would be Thomas Dekker, a scene that we read yesterday. I mean, we don't know if Hand E is this person, and not enough evidence, really. Hand E is Thomas Dekker, and we read the scene yesterday with the extended hair cutting scene there. There's always talk about whether this play was, it's always assumed this play wasn't staged, but absence of a staging doesn't mean that it wasn't by any means. As far as incendiary material, this is plenty of it in here and plenty of cuts to it. Don't know how much more there is to say other than I'll drop a link to everyone in this chat where to see the manuscript, and you can find it. They finally have released the digital images of it at the British Library, so you can see for yourself what it looks like.
Yes, and yes, we've. I did endeavour to do a relatively maximalist approach in terms of material from the play. The chunk that we didn't read today was just purely an accident. I just accidentally missed it, so apologies on that front. There has been an attempt, by and large, to present as much potential material as possible. We may at some point go back and look at the different variations in things. And just following on from Dan's thought about the, we don't know if it was staged or not. There's good reasons for it not to have been. But it's really interesting in comparison. We've mentioned across the week Thomas Cromwell. As a play that does similar business at times, or is dancing around the same problem of an absent king, there's the two do have interesting similarities there that I'm quite liking. So I'm leaning to this might have been staged, but it's not unstageable by any stretch of the imagination.
Can I add one thing about that? It's really important to note that the one surviving manuscript that we have was not intended to be published. It was a document that was marked up for performance. So you'll see, which is why when I identified Hand C as in the theatrical scribe, he was putting in stage directions and making cuts, rewriting scenes. Hand B, the so-called Haywood part, has rewritten a scene that was already written by Munday, for example. So you have two different versions of that. There's insertions here and there, scenes that have been reordered. And when you look at the manuscript, it seems to be all out of order. And it's been placed back into order for those who want to edit it. But yeah, I think it's really important to note that this was not meant necessarily for public consumption, at least not meant for reading.
Lois.
Yeah, one possibility would have been, either a reading or even a performance in a private house. I mean, one thing at this period is there were quite a few descendants of Thomas More in England. It's confusing because of Munday and his whole, that may be why somebody was trying to rewrite some Munday, because if they knew it was by Munday, I would have thought they might have not wanted to go anywhere near it. But just given Monday's past treatment with Campion and so on. But it's possible. I think a lot of things did get done in private houses. There would have been a lot of people ready to act. The family and the servants as well.
We'll be going around the room for final thoughts in a more general way. I'll let you volunteer or additional thoughts or questions as we go in a slightly less way that I sometimes do in the past. So, Rachael, do you have any additional questions or thoughts or final thoughts about the play overall?
Yeah, this is kind of a burning question, is how, beyond this play, was More considered a controversial figure just because of the change in, religion and and what he had represented, maybe a generation or two before. And then just the More as a character in this play, how Munday seems to gravitate towards these characters that, with the Robin Hood one that we did with Robert, that they're these fallen from grace characters. And in, the Robin Hood one is kind of after and during his fall. And this one, is sort of that preamble to the fall. And I don't know, maybe that's his personal connection to the way that maybe Lois can say more about that, what his personal life was and what his personal controversies were that might have brought him to, write plays about characters like this.
Well, I mean, Munday, as a very young man, went off to Rome and was in the English college there for Catholics who wanted to become priests and go back and bring the true religion back to England. And then he left and went back to England. And when he saw people from there, he turned them in. And he was also involved in the questioning and torturing of Edmund Campion, who I think Catholics regarded as a saint, and who was again one of the, another well-known gifted figure whose death was a notorious scandal. So, and he appears to have worked for Topcliffe, who was the sort of chief torturer and a very nasty man. I mean, he has this really awful background, which is, one reason I think he's never been given very much credit for his writings, because his plays are totally different. But the only thing I could ever think of is that his fondness for disguise and spying stories and so on might somehow come out of this. But it could be completely different. I mean, people don't necessarily write anything that resembles their lives anyway.
Mm. Dan?
Can I just add a correction to me? I was saying Buck, I think, the entire time. It's Tilney, because Buck was not till later, of course. It was a censor at the time. That's all.
Lynn, then Helen.
Yeah, it's always kind of fun, a fun activity, a sort of parlor game to speculate about the crossover between an author's life and his work. But the problem with critical biography is that it's not really criticism, and it's really not biography. So, I mean, it's kind of a fun game, but there's really no intellectual rigor to that activity.
Which is an excellent way for us to close that avenue as we go gravitate more towards the text again. Helen and then Alan.
Yes, the question was asked about Moore's current reputation at the time when the play was written. What happened to Moore's reputation is that it was taken over by Roper, who really rewrote the story to make him very much a part of it, and very much to diminish the part of his wife, Margaret. And nowadays, people, I think led by John Guy, people are beginning to realize that an awful lot of Moore's output was actually written by Margaret, but Moore put his name on it. And a lot of damage was done. Moore was made a very, very great man by Roper, partly because he was feeding off the reputation as the son-in-law and heir of all this righteousness.
Alan?
I must admit this piece has left me a bit cold. It strikes me that there's possibly 3 plays here. There's Act 1, Act 2 and Act 3, Scene 1, the story of the uprising and the consequences, which I think works well as a unit of action. I think the fall of Moore, which is what we've basically done today, works well. The rest of the material in between, quite honestly, I would be quite happy for it to disappear without trace. It didn't do a damn thing for me as a bit of drama or characterization or anything else.
Okay, we have one extreme viewpoint there. Aliki, do you want to follow on from that or go in your own way?
I'm going to dispute that. I think I would have said as much yesterday. I would have agreed. But having seen the fall of Moore, the rest of it makes a bit of sense for me. I think you need to have seen the smartassery, you need to have seen the tedious jokes in order to love him for the last jokes. That's kind of how I feel. And we had said something, I don't remember who said it, but we had said something yesterday about how the right actor could do this. And I think, think about somebody like Damian Lewis in this role, right? if he can make you love a billionaire, creepy Wall Street dude, surely he can make you care about more.
Lynn.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Alan and Aliki both. That we the obvious comparison, in the Beyond world is with the Cromwell play, but I was also thinking of this in conversation with what we're calling Thomas of Woodstock, where you have a great man, although he's different from Cromwell and more in that he wasn't like an ordinary person that rose to greatness. He was the king's uncle, but a prominent person whose character and personality and brings him into conflict with the sovereign. And in Woodstock, I just sort of feel like I know who he is and see him as a kind of real person from the beginning. And I really struggle to do that with this text in regard to Moore, that the guy who plays practical jokes and the guy who makes a speech about I owe my success to God, it's hard to see them as the same person. But on its feet, that problem might go away. That seam might not show.
Yeah, it is one of those things that, once we're aware of the discontinuity, that, that becomes a practical driving production problem to be solved. And to make the and sometimes to highlight the discontinuities and allow that, because that makes characters interesting. Fundamentally, what makes a character interesting is a series of contradictions that you've just managed to paper over the cracks of, so that the character feels dynamic rather than one-dimensional. And the advantage with the text that is already fragmented in several interesting ways is it does give you a series of editorial questions to decide even before you get down to shall I make some cuts. So there's a whole series of decisions about what scenes do you want to keep in, what versions of scenes do you want to keep in, what version of this play are we presenting, because ultimately there is no absolute answer to what this play is, because there are alternative versions of things. So that gives us a lot of options and a lot of wiggle room. There's no one going to be able to say to us that's not how it should be done, because there is no answer to that question. Lois.
Yeah. Yes, I think it's one of those plays, a bit like Dr. Faustus, where every production you see of it is going to be very different, because it will actually probably use a different text, make different cuts, and so on. What I was going to say about the discontinuities and contrast is, of course, that the actor is the unifying element, and that it is quite easy to create subtext. They always say plays of this period don't have it, but any play can have it. All you have to do is put pauses in. I mean, if if Moore has a pause before he says something is going on in his mind. And the way that he goes between these serious and, quite thoughtful speeches and the rather crass jokes at the expense of his wife and the silly practical jokes and things. I'm sure you could tie it all together. I mean, the sense of a deeply religious man who is also doing these almost insanely goofy things at times. I mean, I'm sure Ian McKellen made something of it when he played the part.
It is somewhat episodic. There are sort of three movements to the play to a degree. Francis, you've been here for this movement only. How was this section of the play for you? I mean, we fragment everything up. We exaggerate fragmentation anyway because of the way we stop and start here. How was it for you as this single experience?
I'm always struck in the portrayals of Thomas More that I've seen, and really the only other two I've seen are Man for All Seasons, of course, and Wolf Hall. But I'm struck in this play and Man for All Seasons by Thomas More's relentless stoicism. That makes me wonder how much Robert Bolt, who wrote Man for All Seasons, how much he drew on this play as source material. In this kind of thing, I'd have liked to have seen a bit more doubt on on the part of Thomas More, and a bit more fear, because that would have made him more human. And as for his relentless joking, I think that always gets on my nerves. You know, you meet performers who are like that. They never stop making jokes. You know, they never know when to stop performing, and so that always tends to get on my nerves. So I'm not sure how much I would have enjoyed the rest of the play.
It is interesting that, you know, we were talking about the inappropriateness of trying that joke on about you know, the being beheaded in front of his wife, but you know, he basically recycles it. He retools the joke. You know, it's like he's testing material on his family before he gets to a different crowd. So there is a sort of real stand-up comic quality to him. Elizabeth, you were Sir Thomas today. How are you finding him? You were here for the first day. You missed the middle. How are you finding him?
Yeah, thank you for coming back to me, Rob. I think it was something kind of magical to see a black woman play Thomas More, because we have this like kind of cross-casting where we get lots of white actors play you know, indigenous people. We get that a lot in film, and we get that a lot in theatre. One of my what jumps to mind is Olivier as Othello. That's the one that kind of jumps out at me. But it was a joy. What I was thinking was that More is such a joy to read. And I know that there was this like furore about this black actress is about to play Anne Boleyn. And that, I don't know if anyone has heard about that story, but that was a big thing in the news. I can't remember her name, but she was about to play Anne Boleyn in a series. And I just thought, for me, it was a complete pleasure, and it was a complete, one of the magical things about Beyond Shakespeare is that I get to play a role that I would never get near in real life. And I think More is just delicious for an actor. You know, I would love to see people like Francis, people like Dan play More. So I really... Yeah, I know. I used to show, sorry, Francis just said, Olivier's Othello was very well received. Yes, I used to show it to my students when I taught Othello at college. And they always used to say, why does he look a bit green? The black was a bit off in the film version. But I know Olivier's Othello was very well received. I just felt that More was just such a delicious character. And I would love for us to do a second look on him so I could see the cast really perform him and not such a cold read.
Excellent points, though. In a retrospective fashion, I must go. We will move on. But no, lovely points. Other thoughts? Eric?
Yeah, I know I've been quite quiet today. Anyway, I was going to say that it's interesting how it starts off with the sort of, you know, Lincoln and those sort of, that crowd, basically, which is not directly related to, well, I mean, it is, but when it starts, you're like, how is this, why? Unless you know the story, you're like, how is this related to the story? Like this sort of, these random people making xenophobic sort of remarks. And then, obviously, if you know the history, then it makes more sense. But then you kind of, the first time we're introduced to More, it's in his capacity as sheriff. And then it cycles back to the new sheriffs of London, who are sort of like at the end, which is quite an interesting choice, I think. And also, it's interesting how he isn't beheaded on stage and doesn't really get a death speech as such, sort of. Well, he does, but
Act
also
5
doesn't.
is his death speech.
Yeah, he kind of gets a death speech, but also doesn't in some way. He doesn't get like sort of the long sort of, you know, woe is me, I'm gonna die kind of, you know, like, I don't know, Troublesome Reign, King Edward kind of thing, where you get like a sort of elaborate, flowery speech about how death has made him realize, I don't know, something. And yeah. It's just interesting as a choice.
Yeah, and we haven't really touched too much on that initial rebellion going up. The position the play takes is a little more slippery than perhaps we'd like, in the sense it does depict the French being very bad people. The people that we actually do meet, which is not unproblematic. I mean, there are balancing other levels going on in those opening scenes, but the play world is not always nice, and it's a really interesting question that decisions what might need to be made in production. Tamara, you've been here for 2 sessions, I think. Any final thoughts?
Well, I'm not lost anymore like I was yesterday. I also feel like I would like to see a second look of this, because I can't quite, it's very slippery right now. I can't quite, part of me agrees with Alan and part of me is saying maybe there is somewhere that we're just not seeing because we are doing it in this episodic fashion. I have to say I don't like him that much. Yeah, I don't know what to make of it at the moment. I'm following it now, which is an improvement, but I can't quite pin it down yet.
Francis.
Yeah, that reminds me of something I meant to say. I'm not sure how pleasant a character Thomas More was in real life. I've read some things about him that make me doubt this sort of very romanticized version of romanticized way he's portrayed in these plays.
Just briefly, Sarah, I don't know if you have sound, but just briefly to see if A, you have sound, and B, you have any final thoughts because we've almost gone round everybody in some way or shape or form. Sadly, we do not have sound. Keep trying to make noise and cut in if we hear you when somebody else is speaking. Helen, we went to you for a final. You were responding to a question. Do you have any final thoughts before I go to additionals?
Yeah, I think my only thought is that I know this play is playable because I've seen it played professionally in London. But if I hadn't, I would say bit iffy. But to say the audience was surprised was an understatement. They really, really were surprised. I was talking to the people next to me and they were, what is this play? Who wrote this? I mean, they, that was a good question actually. But some company did that and Sejanus as a double bill.
Double bill?
Well, not on the same performance, not the same night. There was,
You barely fit them into the same day, depending on whether it's cut.
But the same company was doing these two.
Yeah. Might have been the RSC.
Right, RSC.
No.
Yeah.
No?
Oh.
I don't think so.
Because the RSC did it. I didn't get to see it, but you could watch it in their archives.
Yeah, I saw it. And Sejanus too. And I saw an earlier.
Well, maybe it was. Maybe it was. I didn't think it was, though. Certainly wasn't in one of their theatres.
Dan?
Just on the performances of it, the whole thing about it is why I mentioned this in the chat, but always especially with this type of play, I'd want to see how they had structured the script. Because as anybody knows, whenever you stage anything, you're going to adapt it for the stage and you can cut out whatever the heck you want or add in whatever the heck you want. For example, the famous insurrection scene speech that's already been referred to by Ian McKellen, all of the references to God, Moore is advising the rioters to desist because to expel the refugees is an act of God, an act against God. That's always cut out when you hear this speech, because it may not seem to fall, like, I guess, resonate with the public there. I think it's a wise choice if you want to reach a wide audience there. But yeah, it's just an example of how we shape the story to fit whatever audience we want. I've seen The Rivals restoration with all the single ladies. It was brilliant. At the beginning of the play, they were doing a version of that. I'm all for that kind of thing. So I always think it's going to work because I've seen it's good, or it's not a good play because I saw a production of it. I always say, well, let's see who did it and let's see what the script looked like.
Yes, because we're all about trying to find the best face for this play. What is the best? What are the best options? What are the pitfalls? We found quite a few of those. We found lots of things to like. I'll just briefly go. Sarah, can we hear you?
Hear me?
Yes. Say something wonderful.
Oh my God! Oh God! Too much pressure. I enjoyed today more than the previous 2 days, but pretty much everybody has already said and discussed what I was thinking and about in my head. I mean, it's a problematic play because it's so episodic, and now I understand why from what Dan was saying. But I think I'd really like to see it on a stage. I think there are loads of problems in staging it, but we've talked about those already, and it would be interesting to try and overcome them.
Okay, sadly, all the additional thoughts that people have. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We really have run out of time. I do need to close the session. Thank you very much to all these wonderful readers. Thank you very much, everyone. We will return one day. Goodbye.
Bye.
I had a sore fit of the stone tonight.